Hey guys, Kevin here, and I want to look at with you installing TypeRocket as a root installation. So to do that, we head over to the documentation and look at root install. Now, what's a root install of TypeRocket and what problem does it solve? Well, many times when you're developing a site, you don't want your PHP code to be accessible via HTTP requests. And there's a lot of ways we can block that. If you're using Apache, you can use htaccess rules. If you're using Nginx, you can use different rules. There's all kinds of ways you can configure that. However, we don't really want that type of security to be a configuration. We want it to be part of the base build. And so that's what rooting TypeRocket allows us to do. It allows that level of security to be part of the base installation of the program. And it does that by making WordPress a dependency of TypeRocket versus making TypeRocket something that you install inside of WordPress. Now, obviously WordPress is the majority of the code of this entire project, so you could say that it's still TypeRocket inside of WordPress, but just the way it's configured makes it seem that WordPress is installed inside of TypeRocket. Now, let's look at installing that and look at the real benefits in code of doing it this way. So the first thing we need to do is download TypeRocket via Composer, and this time we're not going to install it inside of a WordPress site. It's going to be a base project. So in my demo directory here, I'm just going to install TypeRocket, and I'm going to call it tr4 as the folder name. Now hit enter here. And this is going to download TypeRocket. Again, there's no WordPress code in any of this, and we'll look at that in a second once this is finished downloading. So let's open this up inside of PHP Storm. To do that, I need to change my directory to the tr4 project, and then I just do pstorm. Okay, so inside of this project, we'll see a WordPress folder, but there's no installation of WordPress. We just have TypeRocket and its core assets, its core program files, all of that, but no WordPress. So now that we have TypeRocket, we need to get WordPress inside of TypeRocket. Jump back over to the website, and then we just run this command from TypeRocket. We use PHP Galaxy, the Galaxy CLI that comes with TypeRocket. We're going to use root, which is a command that we can run, and then we just need to specify the database, the username, and the password. Jump over here, Galaxy root from our TypeRocket folder, and then we need the database, which is demo tr in my case, and then homestead is the username, secret is the password. Now this is going to download WordPress and activate everything for us. So if I jump back over to PHP Storm, we'll see that wp-config has been added. It has all of our credentials added in here. It's loaded up this the WordPress seeds and salts, and then also included TypeRocket inside of the wp-config file. So that looks good. And then if I look at the WordPress directory, WordPress is now in here. And the last bit is to point our domain to this WordPress directory instead of pointing it to the root of the project, which would open up all of these files, the app directory, resources, all of this to HTTP requests. Again, by pointing our root of our project to WordPress, we can no longer get to these files via HTTPS requests, which then makes our site more secure. It also makes it manage more like an MVC framework, which is exactly what we want to do. So if I jump over to my config for my particular hosting environment, you'll see that I'm pointing this tr4.tr domain to my specific WordPress directory under that demo tr for WordPress directory. That's a mouthful. So now that I have all that set up, I'm going to jump over to the browser and then go to the domain name. I'm just going to hit enter here, and it's going to load it up for me. And now I can run through the install of WordPress. So I'm going to do that, and I'll fast forward through this for you. Okay, and now we have TypeRocket installed as a root project, and you'll notice a few things when you have a root project. TypeRocket takes over the themes section. So we're going to have one theme, and that's all that we will have inside of a root installation. If you want other themes, you'll have to do a little bit more in-depth research on how that works in TypeRocket. This is just an installation video, so I don't want to go too far. And that's it. We have TypeRocket as root installed, and we can begin to manage our project like a root installation. So let me point out some of the key differences here to kind of complete this video for you. So the first thing to notice is that under resources, our themes are now located underneath this themes directory, and we're using templates here. And that templates file includes a functions.php file, a screenshot, which is what we have on here, and a style sheet. And because this is not publicly accessible, I have to have this screenshot file located off underneath the WordPress assets, templates, and screenshot here as well. Okay, so both of these files are the same. And this is how most of your JavaScript and CSS need to be included when you're doing a root installation. They cannot live inside of this resources folder. So when we work with our asset files, we need to compile them to go into this assets area. And if I look at my CSS here, there's a themes section. And if I go under resources, there's the Sass folder. And here I have a themes Sass file. So I'm going to add a rule here, body, background. We're going to make that black. Okay. And then we're going to set the height to be 100 VH. Okay. Hopefully that'll work for us. And then we need to compile those assets. And the way we do that is using Webpack. So if I go over here to the terminal, look out here, we can see that I am having access to this Webpack file. And the best way to do anything in Webpack is to do a node or an npm install. So I'll install all my package dependencies, and this uses Laravel's mix. So we're going to get a lot of stuff out of the box with this. We'll just wait for this to download. Okay, so I'm going to clear the console here, and then I'm going to look at, well, first I'll actually show you the package.json file because this will be helpful. We have this scripts area here, okay? And when I do these scripts, I have access to running basically these commands that are a little bit more verbose, and a much shorter syntax. So I should be able to run npm, or enter in the console, npm run, and then dev or development, for example. This dev is actually a shortcut for npm run development, which would then run this long command. So that's what I want to do. I want to do npm run dev, and then that's going to compile that CSS down for us and move it into our public directory. So if I go back to the assets, templates, CSS, and go back to the themes file, now we have our output here, okay? And if I did run prod, it's going to give me a optimized version of the CSS. We'll see that in a second once that finishes up. And here we go, it's kind of compacted. And so I'm using Sass here, and it's compiling into the public view, which is what I want. So now my Sass files are no longer accessible to the public via HTTP requests, which is excellent. And the same goes for the JavaScript. And if you want to look at where all this takes place, it's inside of this Webpack file. And here we have basically, we're saying our resources, JavaScript, and theme Sass information gets compiled out to this location, and you can change these configurations. But this is essentially how you get running with a root installation of TypeRocket. Feel free to play around and get your next project started as a root installation.